Okay. You're on.
Hey, John. Back in 1964, no, 63, he had just gotten out of the Army, and I was sitting in the car with his brother. He was going with my niece at the time, and he's crying on my shoulders. And Richard came up, and then that was all she wrote. 6 weeks later, we were married.
Really?
Right. And we've been married 48 years.
Is that right?
Yes.
Wow. 48 years, first day of February. Very good. Very good. You enjoying yourself?
Yes, I am.
Okay.
I'm full, too.
Okay. Well, I wanted to get a few words on video, so that's what we did.
Are we starting?
Yes.
Oh. Mac and I met at Mississippi State. He was dating my sorority sister, and she left for the summer, and while she was gone, he and I started dating. And when she came back, I was pinned, and so that was the story.
Does Mac get any say in this? What am I supposed to say now?
Why we be careful.
Amen. I agree with her. I got the better half of the situation because I married her.
Very good. You're on, Rita.
I'm on. Okay. Well, Larry and I met when his dad came to be pastor at my church. And so we didn't pay much attention to each other for a while, but we kind of got interested in each other, didn't we?
Yeah.
Ended up getting married and been married almost 49 years. So that's how we met.
Okay.
Not high school.
Does Larry get any say in this?
Yeah.
I agree with all of that.
Over the years you've learned?
I have learned. I've learned. That's right. I will say this. Our first date was she asked me out. Somebody had given her tickets to a Pete Fountain concert at the W, and she invited me to go. So I agreed. But then it was still longer after that before we got together. That's about as serious as we're going to make this.
Cornelia and I met on a hayride. I was with her first cousin, Mary Frances Rhodes, and she was with Timmy Timms. And it was cold that night. Oh, it was so cold. It was one of John Robert Arnold's hayrides, and we went all the way from the Methodist Church to the Noxubee Refuge. And we got out there. It was so cold that she didn't have a good jacket, so I gave her my jacket to keep warm, and I froze to death. And after a while, I says, we can't take this anymore. So I called a ride back to town and got my car and drove back out there and picked up Cornelia and Timmy Timms and Mary Frances Rhodes, and that's where it started. All right, our first date, I was always the perfect gentleman, so I drove my car out to her house, and I got out and I went up and I knocked on the door, and back then, you know, the young lady was never ready. You had to wait a while, so I went in, sat down, and I talked to the parents a while. And a little while later, here she comes, and looking great like she usually does. And so I opened the door for her and helped her out, and helped her down the steps and out to the car. And I opened the door on the passenger side. She got in. I closed the door. I went around to the other side, got in the back seat. Oh, I was sitting on go.
Okay.
What is the question? How did we meet?
We met at the information desk at the University Union. I was working there, and Gaddis and his roommate, Bill Hunter, came up to the desk. And Gaddis, being the, what do you call it, the self-confident person that he was, asked me for a date. And I pulled out my calendar and told him I couldn't fit him in. kind of shot him down a little bit. But when we finally had a first date, it was to a Phi Mu Halloween party that was at the American Legion hut just around the corner here. And he picked me up and he headed to West Point, where he got some beer. Now, all of this is terrifying me because I'm afraid I'm going to be kicked out as a pledge of the sorority. So he puts it in the back seat. Do you remember this?
Don't tell all that you know. This will be on Facebook. You ever heard about Facebook? Do you know Facebook? You've probably said more than you need to say.
He picked up the 6-pack of beer, put it in a cooler in the back seat of the car, and we drove over to the American Legion hut. And he pulls out a beer and starts drinking it in the car there. I'm terrified that I'm going to be kicked out of the, pulled up on standards or whatever. But anyway, that was our first date at a dance at the American Legion hut.
You got to get these relationships started right.
I do. Okay, Joy and I have never taken trips together except to Starkville 2 or 3 times. 2 maybe. But when Joy was in Baton Rouge working, we got to be friends because we didn't know each other in high school.
That's what she says, but I knew of her. I didn't know her.
Well, we all knew of Jerry.
All right, whatever. But anyway, when Joy was in Baton Rouge, she met a lot of my friends. So I'm in a Mardi Gras crew called the Pigs, because the Pigs, P-I-G-S, because for the last 25 years or so, we get together and eat. And so we are in a Mardi Gras crew, and it's kind of like a happy crew. It's this crew of South Downs. And so Joy met my friends in the Pigs. And Joy made a special trip to Baton Rouge.
Jerry, you're the most beautiful pig I've ever seen.
You were so sweet. She made a special trip to Baton Rouge. She was there about a week or so. She helped us with our float, and she was, on the float. I don't think I was on the float that year. I was sick. I think I had a cold, but my granddaughter Abigail was on the float. So we've got a lot of good pictures, and Joy really got into it. She didn't know what she was getting into in Baton Rouge, Louisiana for Mardi Gras, but I think you enjoyed it a lot. She says she's coming back. She wasn't able to come this year. She was too busy, but she's going to tell them ahead of time that she needs that week off so she can come to Baton Rouge. So, come to Mardi Gras.
Does Joy get to say anything?
No. Well,
make a bit of difference.
I'm sorry about. So I ran into Jerry when I was at the class reunion and realized that she lived in Baton Rouge and that's where I was staying to work. And so I got involved in the Pigs, and I really enjoyed making the float and riding and throwing the beads. And so I make it a point to come back every year to class reunion, stop and pick up Jerry to make sure she comes to class reunion, and then we drive up. So, yeah.
Okay, Kay.
Is this on?
Yes.
It's on. You're ready to go.
We met at a faculty luncheon at Mississippi State. George was working on his PhD, and I had come back after getting my master's and was teaching French. And my brother took me to a faculty luncheon, and George was there. I learned later that he had arranged that, but I didn't know it then. And I was not impressed.
No?
Not originally, but...
This is not love at first sight anymore.
No, it wasn't. But he wears well, so.
After how many years?
45 coming up in June.
Does George have anything to say about this?
Do you have anything to say about this?
She's told you all the details.
Enough of the details, anyway.
Enough of the details.
Yeah.
Okay. You're on.
Nana and I met 31 years ago. We both divorced about the same time. We were single for about 4, maybe 5 years. And I knew of her and heard about her through a friend of mine, so I went to check her out. She was an organist at Calvary Baptist Church, and she knew I was there checking her out because she almost fell off the organ stool because I think, John, the truth was she had been checking me out. So that's kind of how we began our relationship, began to talk and date and meet and been together since 1981. Yep.
He told the truth. He told the fact, except I did not fall off the organ stool.
I'm sure you got a story about that. Well, it wasn't funny because... Oh, I'm sorry. Are you filming now? Oh, well, excuse me. I don't know whether anybody remembers going on the pep bus to Amory to watch the boys play ball. And we got in, it started snowing as we were going into the gym. And when we came out, it was so deep, we made it as far as Aberdeen. I'm talking Mississippi. And we made it to Aberdeen, and the bus couldn't get up the hill, so we all had to trudge to downtown Aberdeen and stay in the hotel. And I forgot how many days we stayed. No money, no change of clothes. Of course, the girls didn't have any makeup or anything like that. And they just took it on faith from the school. The school said they would collect the money, and I guess they did because Daddy must have paid it. I don't know. But I don't know whether anybody remembers that or not. But that was fun. That you don't remember? You didn't? I don't guess you went then, John.
But I don't remember snow and maybe one.
Oh no, it snows a lot here.
It does?
Yes, yes. Huh? Well, I have seen snow up to there. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. Yeah, they're farther, but it snowed here. We came from Memphis and barely made it to Starkville, and that hasn't been that many years ago. It was very deep. Well, Daddy was still alive at that time. But yeah, that I don't know how many days we stayed, but we had fun on that trip. That was fun. I think that's the year that our boys went to state. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was. Pretty sure it was. Uh-huh, yes.
All right, John put this microphone in my face, and I'm supposed to tell you how I met my husband of, how long we've been married? 48 years, something like that. Well, he was a student at Mississippi State University, and I was in high school at Starkville High School, and I was in a car full of girls, and Margaret might have been along, and he was in a car full of boys, and we were at the Derby. And yes, and he and his buddies were at one table, and I was at another table with my girlfriends, and I think there was a guy trying to sell us pictures. And so I believe Nan is the one who talked Richard into buying pictures. So she had to have the pictures made. Then there were 6 of us that went out together that night, and that's how we met.
Okay. You remember that the same? No. Okay, you ready, buddy?
Let's be quiet.
I met Marilyn in the big city of Artesia, Mississippi, at a horse racing place. I don't remember where it was or whatever, but.
Was it love at first sight?
Just about.
Be careful what you say, buddy.
But anyway, she wasn't but 12. Now, I stole her away from her mom and daddy when she was 18 years old, and it's the best thing I ever stole in my life.
I met Betty on a blind date at MSCW, and we were introduced by a common friend, and I went over and met her at her dorm. First time I met her or saw her, and it was somewhat love at first sight. We went to a movie and saw the Blue Lagoon. I think we saw it, went to that same movie like 3 times before we saw it all the way finished, and I wouldn't tell that. But anyway, we've had a good 46 years, all except 3 days, and I don't remember what that was about.
When we came down the elevator, he said he was looking at the two of us saying, I hope that's not my date. And I was looking at the two of them saying, I hope that's not my date. And sure enough, it worked out that he was the one I really liked, and I was the one that he liked.
Great. This is part 2. Part 2.
I forgot to tell this. The first date I had with Marilyn, we went to the Princess Theater in Columbus to see a movie. The Varsity. That's right. And
hold the mic up.
We were standing in line, and people started running out, and dust and stuff came out behind them, and the ceiling had fell in.
Oh, no!
So we had to change our plans. And I said, well, call your mother and see if we can go to the drive-in theater. And she called her mother, and her mother said, I told her what happened, said, we wanted to go to the drive-in. She said, well, she'd appreciate it if I'd bring her on back home.
I'm not talking.
We actually met at a swimming pool. 1983.
I thought we met at church.
No, we actually met at a swimming pool.
Can we get a few more details on this? Where was the pool?
Well, we
met in Natchez. Yeah, I taught school and I had just moved back there. And that's how we met.
That's all we're going to find out.
You want me to do it?
It doesn't make any difference. You can if you want to. We met through a friend.
You met
Go ahead, Carol.
You didn't meet on Facebook.
I want more details than that.
Yeah.
Jim and I were a blind date. We met through a mutual friend. And when Jim called me, I remembered that I had met him previously at a Shoney's drive-in. And his vehicle was next to mine and some other girls. And he was joking around and told us that he was a bartender. So when he called for the date, I was thinking to myself, no way, Jose. And I wouldn't go. So it took the 3rd phone call from him to convince me that he was not really a bartender. And so we did go out, and here we are almost 45 years later.
45, yeah. 45 in August.
Yes.
Okay, I retired December 31st, 2011 with the federal government, and I was off work for about a month, and I started to work again. So I'm semi-retired.
And grandchildren?
8. 6 girls, 2 boys.
Very good. Very good. You want to say any more?
Can't think of anything else that anybody would want to hear.
Yeah. Say when. It was the spring of the 8th grade, March the 24th. Susan Chasteen fixed a blind date for Barry and I to double date with she and Dawsey Page. We were freshmen. Dawsey was a senior. We went with them on a double date, only way my mother would let me go. Went to the drive-in, Lakeside, Slim Dossett. We get there, park the car. The next thing we know, Susan and Dawsey are down on the front seat. Barry and I are locked dead ahead at the screen, scared to death, not holding hands, not doing anything but just staring at the screen. Well, after about an hour, Susan and Dawsey
Barry and I are still staring dead ahead at the screen. And that was the beginning of our relationship. Susan Chasteen put us together. Spring of the 8th grade, March the 24th. We have been married 49 years this March, past March the 16th. This coming March the 16th, we will be married 50 years. We dated 7 years, spring of the 8th grade to our sophomore year in college, so 50 and 7 is whatever. 57. 57 years together we've been. And what a blessing. God has really blessed us.
Blessing.
What? And yours? And see, y'all are ahead of us. So, I mean, it's a beautiful relationship. Thank you, Jesus. Give me a kiss. Every chance I get, because he will watch Fox News every night, and I mean it makes me so nervous, and so I just sit there and stare at the screen.
It's better than Dancing with the Stars.